Let's move on to our group chat.
This is where I can't talk.
And where I can talk.
I think as we'll learn, that's there's never a point where Cherlynn can't talk.
Wow.
You guys, this is live. Y'all see Devindra being mean to
Let's
me.
talk about the Nintendo Switch launch.
Okay.
Switch launch. And I had the chance to attend the New York event last week and actually got my hands on the hardware. And it feels pretty good. I had a lot of fun playing the games and just fondling all the new
even
Nintendo
the milking
hardware.
one, right?
Even I had a lot of fun milking.
The milking one.
The
I had a lot of
milking
fun juggling the balls in my hands.
Ooh,
with
wow.
That's kind of fun.
That's kind of fun. Right after the milking thing. Japanese sensibilities, guys. Like, they built all these mini games and the demo people.
Racist.
Go look at our game coverage. Specifically, there's a post where we kind of do mini reviews of the games we've tested, and I did the video for that
It's
piece.
like you're explaining our coverage
Yes.
to Cherlynn.
Yes.
I mean, I already read
I'm
it.
sure Cherlynn didn't, but also we're explaining it to our listeners,
Yeah.
Mallory.
I know.
People are listening to
I
this
know.
show.
Anyway.
I get this.
But yeah, take a look at that video because that's just me running around like a wild man. And they have these, I think it's those mini games in 1-2 Switch, which is a collection of games, and it's just kind of batshit. It's just kind of crazy. Like, I don't even know if most of these ideas will work, but it's kind of an interesting look at how to use this hardware, and Nintendo's kind of good at those things too.
Can I interject for a
Sure.
second here on something that I just realized way too late? Devindra Hardawar hardware.
Oh my god!
I have
You've been
no
working
words.
with him for how long?
I know. I just realized this. Hardware. Hey. Anyway,
Wow.
so segue.
Wow.
Thoughts on the
Bye, Cherlynn.
hardware.
Thoughts on the hardware?
Nice
So,
knowing you.
I'll get back to the mini games, but yeah, the hardware feels very good. I like it feels like the Wii U gamepad, except thinner, and actually strangely heavier too. The Wii U gamepad feels kind of like a Fisher Price toy because it's mostly hollow and big and plasticky. This one feels more solid, but kind of heftier too. But it feels good in your hands because the screen, the screen's like between 6 and 7 inches. It's a pretty big screen. It's kind of wide, so just juggling that in your hands as a portable system feels a little odd. It's a 6.2 inch, 720p capacitive touchscreen, and it feels weird holding that just because it's like holding a small tablet basically with controller ends. But yeah, the controller bits feel really good. The Joy-Con stuff in portable mode. I was able to play Splatoon 2, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and in desktop mode, those controllers worked fine for Zelda as well.
What kind of a processor is it?
It's the NVIDIA Tegra X1 processor.
So pretty powerful.
It's okay. I mean,
It's been around the block.
It's
let's
been
say.
around. We saw it in the NVIDIA Shield TV
Yeah.
and some of their
It's
devices
good
in
enough.
2015.
Yeah, I know. It's old, but it's good enough
It's
for
old.
portable.
And I think we're going to see in portable mode, like it was fine. It's 720p.
Right, I was going to say desktop.
On the desktop side, like when you plug it into your TV, I think watching Zelda running off of that hardware, it seemed... It wasn't exactly choppy, but it wasn't like super high res. It didn't feel like
But that's 'cause
1080p
it's-
either.
So we're not
Oh, so
getting
it was
Zelda
playing-
in 1080p. Didn't
Yeah.
that come out yesterday?
Yeah, the story, it's running at like, what, 900p
Yeah.
or something? I
Yeah.
mean, it's not like
That's
people
probably
will
what it
see
is.
these
Right.
differences, but it's just to my, like, my video geek eye and my gamer eye, like, there are certain things I could see. Nintendo's never been about hardware power, but the Wii and Wii U were, far less powerful than the other systems on the market.
But I mean,
yeah.
I think we should talk about how excited the rest of you are for this because I feel like everyone on
I'm
staff
super
pre-ordered
excited.
theirs
Like-
already.
I'm kind of meh about it.
Oh,
And
yeah?
I think I put a tweet out that said those exact words. I was like, I'm kind of meh, but will I get it? Yes. I mean, I was
Do you feel
pretty...
yeah.
Why are
Go
you
ahead.
mad about it?
Because I have an article up right now. we wrote about this rumor that Nintendo filed for a VR patent for the Switch, and that made me like super excited because I'm kind of like VR like geek at this point.
That won't really happen with that hardware, though.
Nope.
But-
I
Yeah,
know,
it's
so I
not
was like
powerful
super
enough.
excited. I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be great. Maybe a replacement to like Gear VR, like.
Maybe it would be upcoming, right? Because patents filed tend to kind of
Yeah.
come
To
to
be-
fruition.
And
I
I'm
could
also
see-
like trying to figure out if I'm gonna get a PS4 Slim right now to get PSVR. And so in my mind,
The Pro.
Get the Pro.
Get the
the
Pro.
Pro.
Dark Kermit.
Get the Pro, bro. Oh,
This is my role at
Yeah.
Engadget to like subtly
Get the
help
Pro.
people make really bad buying
Also,
decisions.
don't buy the PSVR yet.
He has made me
I mean,
buy
I
this
tried it at
spectacles.
your apartment, and it was okay.
Yeah.
That was not me.
That was on me.
kind of me.
That was on me.
With regard to
So-
Switch,
Yes.
So I was kind of,
yeah.
I didn't even get to finish.
God.
So
Come on.
Finish.
I was kind of upset that there was no inkling of any VR capabilities. But on the other hand, the price is nice.
Yeah.
And
It's $300.
I loved the Wii for what it was, and as like a casual gamer,
But you guys didn't have the Wii U.
because the Wii U like is hot garbage. My friend
Well,
has a Wii U.
Yeah, I
and
like
it's-
the Wii U just fine. It's just I can
It's
understand
hot
why.
garbage, Devindra.
It's a good system. It's just Nintendo didn't quite know how to sell its capabilities, right? Like Mario.
Well, I would say they weren't
yeah.
speaking to casual gamers. The casual gamer like me, they spoke to me and got me into the Wii to a point where I wasn't even going to the gym anymore because I was doing Wii. Like,
Okay,
Wii Fit.
well that's something. I mean, so the Wii U seemed like a misstep, mostly because Nintendo saw tablets and was like, "Hey, let's put a tablet on our console." Except they didn't realize that, yeah, people like tablets because you could take it places. You
Yeah.
could take it on the bus. You could take it somewhere and like actually still play a game on a decently sized screen. And that's what they're doubling down on here.
And
When
there's something called the 3DS, I think.
Yeah. That's a separate story. But
Yeah, I
one of the
digress.
cool things you could do with the Wii U was like just play a game on that little gamepad. And I knew people who would just like move the Wii U base console like around their house so they could just like, plug it in their bedroom and just like have portable gaming there. So now, you don't have to do that sort of thing. I think that's kind of cool.
So V and I were talking a little bit about the Switch right before we started, and I think one of my questions was that launch game titles are kind of limited. It seems like I don't know what you think because you're more of a gamer.
well,
than I am.
sure, but like we've determined there's what 3.
There,
Maybe 4. So there's the big stuff. There's
a
Zelda
handful.
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
There's 1-2-Switch, that collection of mini games. There's Just Dance, which launched last year. Like
Yeah.
it's a port of a game that is already available on the Wii U. I'm fairly sure. And then like a Skylanders thing. So like
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
I
like
forgot
great,
about
man,
that.
great if you're like 12 years old. But anyone else who has like the money, which again, it's like a thing
Hey,
people
don't
still,
knock Skylanders. Did you ever play Disney Infinity?
It's hot trash. It's all,
Disney
it's
Infinity
all-
was
it's
amazing.
all
I
bad.
agree
Disney
that's all
Infinity
trash.
is-
It's all bad. It's all bad.
Yeah.
It's just a cash grab and you fell for it. But
Some of the
Wow.
games- I think
I
some of the games are
personally
good.
had, my husband and I had a large collection of Skylander sets. I'm
they
not like,
they won. They won. But ultimately my point is there was no mention of a Pokemon, which to me is like a system mover.
yes.
Yeah.
The only other game that I've seen in the offing that has any real for me, any oomph, is Fire Emblem, and that's not coming out until 2018. So in
Yeah,
fairness,
nobody buys a system for Fire Emblem, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
yes.
which is not
That's
a
for you.
statement on their quality. But I
Yeah.
think my point is there really isn't, like, for the people who would buy something like this, it does, I think, really nicely bridge the gap between a home machine and a portable machine. Is it particularly amazing at both? Maybe not. That remains to be seen. But there's more potential there than we've seen from Nintendo in a long time.
Yeah.
I don't think their software, their lineup is in any position to move systems as of March 3rd or whenever it launches.
I think
like,
what we're noticing too is like Nintendo moved really quickly, right? When did they announce this thing? In like October?
Yeah, October
Yeah.
last
Like
year.
really quickly, and like, oh, we got the announcement details. We have a launch coming in March. It seems like they're just trying to accelerate, maybe to beat out the Xbox Scorpio or whatever that is, like when
Yeah.
that launches at the end of the year. They're not really competing with Sony and Microsoft here, but it seems like they just need to get out to the market and basically erase the Wii U as quickly as possible. Like that's
I mean, I
pretty
don't
much
blame
it.
them because
Yeah.
that's like a black mark on like
Yeah.
their history.
So if the launch
in my
lineup
opinion.
isn't great, it's okay. Yeah, agreed. Although I think a lot of people will be getting it, like the people pre-ordering it are getting it for
Zelda, sure.
and they're going to play Zelda, and they're going to play Zelda wherever they want, that's the big appeal. But it seems like they have a decent lineup for the rest of the year, at least. Hopefully, we'll hear more at E3.
Right.
I
Yeah.
just hope that a Pokemon game will come. I feel like that would be a huge win.
I think that's kind of unavoidable, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just because it's portable, like you can't.
Like, I was very excited. Like, there was some rumor about it, and we wrote about it that there might be a Pokemon game
Yeah,
coming at
Pokemon
launch. And I
Stars or
was
something,
so
like,
excited because I just got
so
Pokemon
good.
Sun and Moon, almost done
Yeah,
playing it.
but
It's
we
a
just
great
got
game.
we just got
You
a
just got a bunch of
massive
games,
new
yeah.
Pokemon
I'm a glutton
game
for
that took a
punishment,
while.
Devindra.
Yeah, that
I'm
took
a
a while to
glutton.
come out. I could see, like, I'm sure Pokemon would sell the system. Maybe we'll see something by the end of the year, something Pokemon-wise.
Well, they were
But
talking about Sun and Moon specific like version for Switch.
that could be interesting.
It would also be nice to kind of get a main series Pokemon game on a home console, which has never
happened ever, and I would love that.
I will throw this out there, though. Just looking back at the Wii U, which, as we all know now, has been a bit of a garbage fire, it launched with 23 games. So,
Yep.
like, they were definitely feeling it, and it wound up in the dumpster. So
Maybe
to
they're
rel-
scared?
So
So
it
to
may
release a product with what seems to be is infinitely more potential
Yeah.
with a handful of games, one of which is really going to be worth playing.
Yeah.
Like, that seems like you're shooting yourself in the
The
foot.
launch
I
lineup-
mean, I
yeah.
think it sounds like they've shifted their focus to something better.
In the launch lineup, like you can only judge so much from a launch lineup, right?
Well, I think you can make some pretty accurate judgments about developer enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I guess,
that too.
except we don't know how long the developers had to like really sit down and build something for this. Like I was
Okay.
pointing out, like all of this is happening super fast. So a lot of devs don't want to show anything if they don't have anything, that's actually done or ready in time.
And
So
also,
we'll
judging
see.
by the hype around the Switch, I think that developers are going to be encouraged to keep, creating
Yeah.
software games for the.
So, and let me tell you, like, just based on what I saw, I played ARMS, which is the new, like, boxing game using the Joy-Cons in motion controller mode, and that felt pretty good. Like, just being able to move around. When you punch, you can kind of angle your fist to angle the punch on the
Very
screen.
cool.
It's doing fun and new things. 1-2 Switch has those mini games. I don't know how much lasting value they'll have.
Yeah.
I
But
just laugh
what's
every
interesting
time.
about those is that you're not looking at the TV. Like, you start the game and you're listening to audio cues and you're like staring at your opponent, basically. You're staring at the person you're playing against. So it's basically turning the Switch into like almost like a board game type thing or like a party game thing, which is kind of fun too. I like that idea just because there's so much going on in the controllers that you don't even have to
VR
actually be
potential.
looking at the screen.
VR potential.
I mean,
For
no,
sure.
not VR.
Well, not that screen and not the
Yeah.
but the controller
But the controls,
implementation.
yeah.
the controller
But that's
maybe
kinda like the
it's
touch.
it's basic motion control. It's not like 3D
Yeah,
object
They
tracking.
wouldn't
or
have the
anything.
resolution for that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
No,
I think.
I mean
That
for
720p
the
is ass.
for the
Sorry.
controller.
Oh, I'm talking about like
Yeah.
motion tracking. Like, I
For
don't
the
think
controller,
it can be
you
that
need
granular,
like
right?
you need actual 3D space motion
Yeah.
tracking and not just like gyroscopes.
Accelerometer,
Yeah.
right.
Speaking of the controllers,
Yeah.
what is I forget what they call it, but like HT Touch or HT Rumble?
Yeah,
That's sort
it's
of
just Rumble. It's a really good Rumble. It feels almost like the 3D Touch from the iPhone. So there's one mini game in 1-2 Touch where you're kind of holding a box or you're pretending it's a box. It's filled with like a mystery amount of like metallic balls, and you have to like move it left and right to like to like basically it's like a kid's game to like feel like how
I'm a
many
kid.
are
Yeah.
being held in here. Yeah, clearly both of you
You
are.
like Play-Doh, right?
Man.
Yeah, I like Play-Doh and metallic balls.
And what was really interesting too is like if you put in tabletop mode, I was playing I was using one of the Joy-Cons, like a small NES gamepad, and it's not very comfortable, but I was playing with somebody else near me, and we were playing Snipper Clips, which is this puzzle game where you basically have to coordinate with the person you're working with to fit yourselves into puzzle pieces or to solve stages. And that's that's like a type of gameplay I haven't really experienced. Maybe not since like old school console days, like not since the N64 or even the SNES. Like,
wow.
I think the Switch is gonna bring new sorts of gaming back for people, and you'll have your PlayStation 4, your Xbox One back at home for your big budget games.
Yeah.
This is something else, so I'm more intrigued. What is weird coming out of that event? I was so like hyped and enjoyed everything I saw, and just seeing on the internet like everybody just hating it, and that was a weird response too. Like everyone's like, I just don't get it. And I guess
Really?
it's one of those things where you have to like maybe get it in your hands and start like really playing it. There's definitely issues.
Yeah,
Battery
we ran,
life is
like,
going to be an
a
issue.
Twitter poll actually about that topic. I asked people, what do you think the Nintendo Switch is? Living room console or like portable? And it was very mixed. I think 45% of the people thought that it was portable, and then 30% thought that it was like living room.
Well, that's about right.
And then,
And then I threw in a Yoshi robot assistant for fun. And most people thought it was that.
One last question, I guess, before we move off the Switch. What do you guys think this means for the 3DS, which is Nintendo's actual portable system right now?
I just bought a 2DS, so I really hope that it's not the end for Nintendo's portable console.
It's still a good, like, you have a huge library of games
Yeah.
to tap into. There's a lot of stuff you could play on that.
and it's cheaper, right?
It's super cheap.
So
It was $80 for
Yeah.
my 2DS, which is, you can't beat that.
Yeah. And the 3DS is what, $150 and below at this point, depending
Yeah.
on like what model do you get.
yeah.
But what do you guys think? Like now you have a home console that's effectively could be a portable console, although you can't fit it in your pocket. You need to have like a bag or something.
I've got
for
some
it.
thoughts because the Switch effectively gets rid of Street Pass and the Miiverse, and those are kind of two of the recent hallmarks of the 3DS and 2DS world. Like the ability to just walk by somebody and trade with them. Like I love that aspect.
Have you used it though?
Yes, I use
and
it.
it works?
Yes, I use it quite frequently, and I trade a lot in my neighborhood.
I've never had good luck with
Yeah,
it.
me neither.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think I've ever actually had like a good interaction via Street Pass with another human being.
I got some good Pokemons, you know.
Some
We
good
slept the
Pokemans.
battle, by the way.
Yeah, we did.
Throwing this out there, throwing the glove down on the podcast.
Okay. I normally bring my 2DS everywhere, but it's not with me today, which is weird. So I'll bring it in
Of the
next
days.
week, and we'll
And
do it.
the Switch is going to have an online platform
that's
of some
right.
kind.
Right, so-
that's different because Nintendo's tried several times and failed at doing online anything right.
So it's more of a centralized service this time, akin to like a PlayStation Network or an Xbox Live, where you pay a monthly fee. It does matchmaking. It gives you access to one free game, which you don't get to keep, which is a little odd, but sure, whatever, fine. It does seem a little hamstrung right out of the gate. I mean, this isn't a thing that we really have been able to experience yet and probably won't for at least another month or so. But things like voice chat, which has always kind of historically been absent from Nintendo consoles, I think with good reason, because kids are
Kids.
kids,
Yep.
are kids, and they're
Yep.
going to be playing with adults,
Kids
and
are
also
kids.
kids are just jerks to other people in general.
ahead.
Yep.
So that's yes,
That's me. I'm a kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
But this time, so the intent is that you run voice chat off of a separate smartphone app, which just to me adds another potential point of failure to the mix. And frankly, at that point, if you're using something else to coordinate with people anyway, like get a Skype call going, get a
Yeah.
hangout
Or
going,
a
like,
phone call.
Yeah.
or a
Remember
phone call.
phone calls?
No, no.
Guys,
You're
what
so
a-
What are
old.
phones?
you could
All
totally
right.
do it.
All right. So that software thing isn't really gonna.
I mean, it's people will buy into it out of necessity, and I think Nintendo has a pretty good understanding of how to sweeten the pot over time. But I don't think that the infrastructure, like I don't think they've completely wrapped their head around the best way to make this work, and more importantly, how to make it work on a device that is as portable as it is stationary.
Although I guess it's interesting if you push it to a mobile device, then you really keep it out of the hands of like really, really young kids or kids who don't have those things. And that's exactly what Nintendo wants. They want to keep those young kids safe. And that's what's held back a lot of their online services for so long. So maybe it's a way of separating that audience a bit. The teens and the adults, so-called adults who have these devices
Right.
can run some sort of multiplayer thing.
Is that a dig at me, Devindra?
No.
Wow, you're taking
What?
everything real personal
Wow,
today, huh?
Mallory. Wow.
Jeez,
mean,
Mallory.
It's my mood.
Just
We're
because
gonna
you're
talk
wearing a
about this
Pikachu
soon.
hat right now, Mallory, does not mean
Lies to the people watching this on
That's
Facebook
a
Live and
scarf.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we're good on the Nintendo Switch. I think we have exhausted.
before
Have
Sherlyn's
we-
like, I don't want to talk about games anymore.
No, V had something to say.
Can we run a Twitter poll to decide whether or not I cancel my Switch pre-order? Because like I woke up the day after the live
How about
stream.
you
Oh, you-
don't
you
do that
really-
and you
Oh, just
resell
resell
it
it on eBay,
Yeah,
exactly.
for money.
Duh.
For money.
V, stop throwing your money away. Make
You're
money.
asking
So
the
you
impossible
actually
here.
you
Why don't you
pre-ordered
just
it
give it to
already?
me?
Well, so I woke up the morning after the Nintendo Direct live stream and like went to Target's website and was like, "Oh, it's available." I found the loophole. No one else knows about this yet. So I obviously pre-ordered it, and I was obviously very wrong. But I have one. It's gonna come a couple days after launch.
Yeah, I would not
Wow.
cancel your pre-order
Yeah.
just because it's more valuable than you think.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want it. Also, it's funny. A lot of people I heard was like, "Yeah, I pre-ordered and then I cancel." I'm like, I guess I just don't know that thought process right now.
Like, why
but-
would you if you already
Yeah.
have it coming, just keep it and
Yeah.
resell it?
I mean,
Yeah.
I guess it's more troublesome to resell it than to just
It
cancel
is.
and get your money
It
back
is.
immediately. I
Although
guess.
even like I'm sure Craigslist or some so you don't even have to ship at that point. Like you
Yeah.
could just say I have a Switch and people
Come
will throw
get it,
money
yeah.
at you.
yeah, literally.
Like that's all you have to do.
especially when that Pokemon sweetness happens.
Yeah, and when that happens, I will
dreams,
buy one.
dreams.
I will definitely buy
All right.
one
Okay.
in 2018.
One
But
more.
if you pre-ordered it, then you can just have it and then play Pokemon on it.
Or yeah,
All right, y'all.
it's gonna
One
take
more
take
group
this fight
story.
offline.
One more group story before we finish this podcast. So it was announced yesterday that President Obama, surprisingly, earlier this week, but President Obama commuted Chelsea Manning's sentence. And Chelsea Manning is the former Army intelligence analyst who leaked a lot of documents to WikiLeaks and started. it was kind of a thing. Like that's what helped make WikiLeaks a very important source for a lot of newspapers. The New York Times was using their information. I mean, I think most of you will remember that video too, showing a U.S. helicopter attack in Baghdad that ended up killing journalists. So Chelsea Manning was convicted of violating the Espionage Act in 2013, sentenced to 35 years. And it turns out, she is actually going to be free in a couple months, May 17th. So she served about seven years of this thing. What do you guys think about this? Because it was a surprising development. Do you think it was fair?
4 years, right? Not 7. 2013 to 2017.
2013 to 2017. Yes, you're right. But no, she was that. It took a while for her to get convicted. So
I mean, understanding the reasoning or understanding why people have been petitioning to get her to at least be moved to a different facility or is what makes me feel like this was justified somewhat. Because as a transgender woman, she's now in an all-male prison.
Yeah.
That is just awful.
And she's already tried to commit suicide at least twice.
So just in light of that alone, I think, yes, this was justified. Even if it wasn't, I didn't need it to be him to commute it or completely pardon her. Just move her. That's all I kind of wanted. But even then,
to be clear, this isn't a complete pardon.
Yeah,
it's mercy.
It's more like shortening the sentence she had from 35 to 4 years. But at the same time, I also, again, if the idea was to move her somewhere else, I don't think there was anywhere she would have fit in.
Yeah, it would have been difficult. And it's also the argument from a lot of legal authorities too, or theorists, is that it was an excessive punishment. I think for people who do similar things like this, they usually see between like 7 and 10 years.
Yeah.
But maybe it's the extent and how much information she put out there that made
35
it
years
really hard.
is a long sentence for not having killed anyone. Well, not directly, I mean. And I'm not sure kind of how that video impacted other people.
Yeah.
But it seems like the penalty was heavier because of that video.
Yeah. I think it was our government's first. This was the first time like a lot of government secrets were kind of spilled out there, and that was like as social media was blowing up. It was as
She,
people were finally
predated
online.
Snowden by 3 years.
Oh no, definitely, yeah. Thoughts?
I mean, I think not to be a super like pro rah government guy, but like I think given the circumstances and sort of the fury that sort of came about because of all this, I think the administration did what they thought was prudent at the time. But as time has progressed and we've seen what Chelsea has been going through and sort of the fallout from what has been released sort of take shape, I don't think we're functionally that much worse off. Obviously, I mean, this is a very outsider perspective. Like we can't speak for any sort of internal government stuff, but I mean, like my life functionally hasn't changed. I would argue most people would say the same. The fallout like doesn't seem commensurate with the crime at this point. So to me, it's a logical move.
I mean, go ahead.
I think I commend Obama on his very like diplomatic approach. Like you said, it's not a complete pardon. He's just commuting. So that way there can't be some crazy like right wingers being like, oh no, but like, no, I didn't pardon her. I commuted the sentence.
Yeah. Although you'll still have that.
You'll still have that.
Yeah, the distinction won't exist for some people.
It's also strange to think about Manning's story now because this was when WikiLeaks was an up-and-coming organization. It was kind of interesting, and Julian Assange was not the character he is now. And now WikiLeaks has turned into kind of something else.
Yeah.
I think one day somewhere in the Engadget chat room we were like, so wait, is WikiLeaks evil now? And I was like, oh, okay, well then.
Yeah, I mean, take this with a grain of salt too, but I've seen people theorizing that, at some point, like, WikiLeaks ended up being a pawn for Russia as well, or at least in some way, like, Putin and the Russian government had something on Assange that,
Like you could say that WikiLeaks, in effect, was a catalyst on this current election and what's going to happen.
Definitely.
Oh, for sure. With the DNC thing.
So
it's just funny how much has changed because when this information got out there, WikiLeaks was kind of being heralded as this new form of information and a new way for reporters to get information securely and things like that. And yeah, it's fallen quite a bit since then.
I mean, speaking of Assange, one of the questions we were looking at here was whether, I mean, he promised, right, if she was ever pardoned, that he would come back to the U.S. from, I guess, from London, the Ecuadorian embassy that he's holed up in. This isn't exactly a pardon. So do you think this is something, though, that will spur him to come back?
Yeah.
No.
No,
he also
so
he
at
said,
all.
like, no.
I guess we'll see. But I think he also, wasn't it, if they had moved Manning, he would have come as well.
I
right?
thought it was just a pardon, but I mean, I might have missed out on anything else he might have said. But I mean, given the sentiment now around like intelligence-related, espionage-related kind of offenses, do you think if he did come back and if he did go through, due order and everything, or due process order, that he would face a lighter sentence at all?
Yeah, I don't know if this would affect him, especially after the election and after some of the things WikiLeaks was tied to there too.
Yeah, I feel like if this happened maybe even like a month or two earlier and he did come back, it would have been very harsh on him. But with the current administration, the new administration is coming in.
But the new administration sort of benefited from all of that
No,
stuff.
they won't. I'm saying that it would have been harsher on him if he came back before. But now, if he comes back, like maybe a slap on the wrist. I don't know.
Maybe that's his plan. Also, wanted to point out, Obama also pardoned the Stuxnet leaker, James Cartwright, which is interesting as well. Because Stuxnet is a really interesting thing. I talked to Alex Gibney, the documentary director, about this last year, about his film 0 Days. So check that out. We have a video interview and a long interview there. But, Stuxnet was this U.S.-backed malware built together with Israel that attacked Iran's nuclear program. And that kind of preceded a lot of cyber attacks. Like, after that, I felt like, or I think we've noticed, like, other countries felt okay implementing their own types of cyber attacks, probably because of Stuxnet, or Stuxnet kind of was the catalyst for a lot of a lot of countries. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to look at Stuxnet as a first bullet fired in a new generation of cyber war. And it's really interesting, too, to look at how Cartwright was being treated. So I think ultimately sentencing was down to something like 2 years of prison, which, I mean, like, bad, sure, but like really not that big a deal compared to some of the other sentences we've seen commuted and sort of taken care of in the waning days of the Obama presidency. Like
he was facing up to 5 years.
Up to 5.
Sentence,
and his defense was looking for something like 600 hours of community service or something.
I mean, this is a potentially stupid question.
No,
but
okay.
So these are presidential pardons or commutions or whatever that
Commutations.
Commutations.
Well, Stuxnet, it was a pardon in that case.
So that's a pardon
that's a
and
pardon.
that's a commutation. So is there any chance these get overturned?
Well, pardons don't get overturned because that's kind of like the president's last parting gift to certain individuals.
Okay, cool. I was just curious.
Although there's certainly other sorts of things,
That
a government could do.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing stopping an incoming president from like cooking up another charge and going after a person who is pardoned for something completely quote unquote separate.
Yeah, or even the Chelsea Manning's case, like Trump could come in and be like, "Oh, I don't agree," and find like you're saying something else to kind of like put her back.
So this is kind of tenuous. This is not.
I mean,
fun.
everything.
I mean, a lot of
tenuous,
things.
None of it is fun, but
it's the best.
I mean,
things are
we're
up in the
hanging
air.
in kind of
It's the best option for these folks. Another thing, the Obama administration they've contrasted Chelsea Manning's position to Edward Snowden. Chelsea Manning, she presented herself to the court. She was judged. She went through that whole process. It wasn't a great process, but she went through it. Edward Snowden, he stayed out of the country. He escaped to Russia, and now he's under, Russian protection, I guess, in a certain way. Do you think the Obama administration has a point there, not to pardon or not to go easy on Snowden at this point?
I 100% think they have a point. Not that I think they should not go easy on Snowden, but I think that Chelsea Manning, in facing trial and everything, is much more above board than fleeing your country and not going through the due process. Like, between the two of them, if Obama had to pick one to pardon, I would pick Chelsea Manning.
Well, it also happened before. And I think partially what led Snowden to do what he did was he saw how Chelsea Manning was treated, though. So it wasn't great.
I mean, as much as I would love Snowden to be pardoned, he has not apologized and like he hasn't come back to the U.S. And I was like talking about this last night actually with some friends. He's in a kind of precarious situation.
Oh yeah.
Because Russia has extended his asylum up to 2020, and like my thinking is why would Russia do that? Like, are they gonna like say he's some type of spy? So if he takes the asylum and becomes a citizen, which he is eligible to be a Russian citizen in a year, which is kind of crazy. Like, what would happen to Snowden if he became a Russian citizen? Would he disappear into the Kremlin and we never hear from him again?
I mean, I think his value on the world stage like would prevent him from ever really disappearing. But I mean, just by, let's say hypothetically he does become a Russian citizen, like I don't see how he doesn't become a persona non grata of the United States. Like Obama has shown a real hesitance to pardon whistleblowers. I don't think Chelsea Manning might be the first real high-profile case that happened, and even that's a commutation. For him to potentially, or anyone coming in, to look at someone like Edward Snowden, who has done what he's done, arguably for better or worse. I mean, we could argue about that all day, but for him to extend an olive branch to someone who has then become a full-fledged citizen of a nation which we have strong suspicions of pulling some really shady shit.
Yeah.
I hesitated, but shady shit. In our, I don't know how PG-13 we can get on, but anyway, like it couldn't happen. Like I don't see him coming back for a very long time.
Yeah.
No.
Although I think the importance of the information he put out there is insanely, it's dramatic. Like it reshaped policy. It reshaped the national conversation. It kind of made it clear how far the government was going when it came to things like privacy and surveillance. These are all important points. And I also wanted to point out, too, that it wasn't his choice to end up in Russia.
Right.
He got stuck there. Like, he was trying to, was it somewhere in South
Venezuela,
America, right?
right?
Yeah. Which is also not great either, but probably a little better as a place to hide out than Russia. Because, I mean, he also couldn't have predicted that all these Russian ties to election hacking and, influencing this last election. Yeah, it's not a great spot for him to be in at this point. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah, I think that's like, as far as we know, I mean, there's not much else that we can go on. Yeah. Because there's, none of them are talking about coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess it's worth reading up on all this stuff right now. And I wonder how, just given Trump's rhetoric, like how will he treat any of this stuff too? Like how will he treat Edward Snowden if Snowden was forced to leave Russia or something?
I wouldn't imagine well.
I don't know.
There's a lot we don't know. Okay, anything else you guys want to add about this or the Chelsea Manning story?
I mean, just that I hope that the last 5 months for Chelsea Manning will be, bearable at the very least.
Safe ones.
And there she's protected in some way. If anything, solitary. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Where can people find all of you on the internet, Cherlynn?
On the Stuxnet.
That's not. That's not how it works.
I know. At Cherlynn Low on Twitter.
At MMSuperflyJR. There is a story to that handle one day.
Can you repeat that handle?
At MMSuperflyJR. And yes, there is a senior.
Terrible.
I thought you were like
senior.
My older sister has the senior.
Oh, damn.
What?
Yeah.
So now I can just contact your older sister and be like, hey, so what's up?
That's not
What's
her.
poppin', son?
That's not her accurate email address. She kind of has a variation on that, but
I'll find it. I'll Google it.
She was the
that's
senior.
I'll find it on
For
the
our
dark
social media head, Mallory. I don't know about that.
I tried to get at Mallory. Okay.
Yeah.
I tried to
I'm
get
sure.
it.
I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Get at me, bro.
Velazco.
Anyway.
Hey, you can hit me up on at Chris Velazco at Twitter. I'm also at v@engadget.com if you want to chat via email because people still
Are you
do
still doing
that.
Inviting them to email you. Okay.
Why?
I've done some good
Wow,
stuff.
you were a brave soul.
I like to stay in touch with our people.
I
Our
do
people.
too.
Our
I talk to
people.
them all day long.
I'm at Devindra on Twitter. I also podcast about movies and TV at slashfilm.com, so check that out. If you have any questions, complaints, suggestions, let us know. You can find us on Twitter at all those handles, but also follow Engadget.
And also
Yell
follow
us
at Engadget Podcast.
Yes, Engadget Podcast. Email us at podcast@engadget.com. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes. I'd love to see more reviews and more people who don't hate us.
Subscribe to us on SoundCloud. I manage our SoundCloud page,
nice.
and it's one of my personal projects.
Okay, and you're like a SoundCloud nerd too, right?
Yes,
So.
I do do like music and audio production on the side. So we have a SoundCloud page at Engadget Podcast there as well.
Cool.
Follow us there.
Thanks. And check out Engadget next week if we're still here. I don't know if we're still going to be around. I don't know if America's still going to be around next week.
Oh, gosh. Do you know
well
something
then.
we don't know?
I know we're going to have a new president tomorrow.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.